Good afternoon. Welcome to the FTD University webinar titled Building Your A-Team. Today, you will learn how to empower and motivate your employees to reach for and exceed your company's vision. Derrick Myers, a certified public accountant and certified financial planner and vice president of Crockett, Myers & Associates, will be leading this informative webinar. As a business consultant, Derrick has developed financial strategies that are unique in the floral industry and have proven instrumental in the growth of many florists. While working with the floral industry since 1983, Derrick has perfected his floral analysis program, which allows him to break down financial statements to show owners where to focus their time and energy to reduce costs and increase profits. He also provides the expertise to guide businesses and individuals toward their financial goals through management advisory services, as well as tax, estate, and financial planning. Once Derrick is finished with his presentation, we will open the webinar up for questions. If you have a question, simply type it in the question box on the upper right side of your screen. We will take the questions in the order they are received. Please feel free to submit your questions during the presentation, and we will hold them until the Q&A portion of the webinar. So without further ado, I would like to turn the call over to Derrick to begin the webinar. Derrick?
Hello, everybody. My name is Derrick Myers, as you said. Just wanted to give you a little bit of background about who we are and how we got to where we are. I am the co-founder of a firm called Crockett, Myers & Associates. I'm also currently the president, and we are a business consulting and accounting firm specializing in the floral industry. So for the last 31 years, we've been helping florists get a better handle and understanding of how to use their financial statements to analyze the cost centers in their business and squeeze a little bit more profit out of each center. So, we may look at the delivery department or the cost of goods department, things like that, and determine how to squeeze a little more profit out and put more money in the hands of the owners. And that's what this is all about. Well, you guys are in this business because you love it, but also because you want to make some money at it. So that's what we're here to help you do, is try to show you how to make a little bit more money out of your business. So today we're going to be talking about building your A-team. And an A-team is a very specific thing that we're going to talk about today. And it's your staff and your employees, and how to bring them all together, working on the same page, same direction, working congruently toward a goal. So first thing we have to do as business owners is we have to know where we want to go with our business. So I have 3 challenges for you today that are going to help you determine where you want to take your business and where you want to go. And those challenges are also going to be instrumental in sharing your message with your staff so that we can get everybody working in the same direction. So the first challenge we want to talk about is what I call charting your course. And I like to use the ship reference because there's a story that I'm going to tell that I enjoy, that I think really drives the point home of charting your course. So what we're talking about here is you as the business owner, you have to know where you want your business to go. It's not good enough just to run the business every day and run the operations and keep it running smoothly. You have to know where it's ultimately headed. And if you don't know where it's ultimately headed, you're going to find yourself just floundering wherever the business goes. And usually it's going to be driven, if you're not purposefully moving it in a certain direction, it's going to go wherever your customers drive you or tell you to go, or wherever your competition pushes you. So unless you're focusing on where you want to go, you're going to go somewhere, and it may not be where you want to end up. So think about it as a ship. If you're in a ship and you're out at sea, and nobody cares where it's going, all they care about is, how clean the decks are, how well the ship is running, how well the crew gets the sails up and down. All that's great, but if you don't have a destination in mind, what's the purpose of being out there? You're just going to go wherever the winds blow, wherever the currents take you. And that's what we don't want to do in our business. So the first thing we have to do is really decide on what our course is going to be. Once we know that, then we can start to share those things with our staff, and that's where we talk about how we do all that. So we have to have our vision, have to know where we're going. So you need to decide, are you going to be an event florist, or are you going to be a wedding shop, or are you going to be just a traditional retail model? Are you going to be a fulfillment center for a wire business? Where is your business going to go? And you really got to take some time. So I recommend spending about a day a week being the visionary of your business. And the story that I want to tell is what I call the captain story, because I think we all tend to get so busy in our day-to-day activity that, you know, our functions become managing the business, making sure it's working, and everything's going according to plan, making sure, you know, we're getting our employees do what they're supposed to do, they answer the phones the right way, they handle the customers the right way. All those things are very, very important, but they're not the main focus of what we need to be doing as the owners. So here's the story. It's called the Captain Story, and basically it goes like this. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. And I know you guys all remember that story. You know, we all do. But basically, when you think about this, the three ships that were there, I know you all remember the names. Probably could just quote them very easily, the Nina, the Pinta, Santa Maria. But being the captain of your own ship, who were the captains of the two smaller ships, the Nina and the Pinta? Does anybody remember? Probably not. I had to Google it to find the answer. But basically, those two captains were actually two brothers. Each of the brothers owned the ships, and yet we don't even know who their names were. Arguably one of the most famous voyages, you know, in history, and we don't know the names of the two captains of the smaller ships. The third ship, the Santa Maria, the flagship, you know, the captain of that, you might think was Christopher Columbus, but it wasn't. It was actually Juan de la Cosa. So here are three ships, most famous voyage in the world, captains, nobody knows the name. The whole point here I'm trying to make is that the captains are not the ones that are remembered. They're not the ones that make the big difference. The big difference is made right here by the visionary, the person who decides where the business is going and you know, how to get there. Okay? So charting your course is crucial. You know, we're doing the wrong job as the captain. The captain is the equivalent of the manager. Okay, that's the store manager. You have to have one, and it may have to be you. If you're a small shop and you don't have enough staff, you may have to wear multiple hats. So you may have to be the captain or the manager as well as the visionary or the leader. So you may have to do both. So that's what I'm saying. Take at least a day a week and spend time deciding where the business is going, fine-tuning the direction of where you're going. Okay, that's my first challenge. Second challenge is set goals to help you get there. Goals are going to be mini steps that'll take you to your ultimate destination. So basically there are several rules when setting goals, but what I want you guys to do is for the next 30 days, instead of big commitment, it doesn't sound that bad. 30 days doesn't sound that difficult, but it's very difficult to do this. Every morning for the next 30 days, write your top 10 goals. Okay, top 10, it's not that many. When you go to do it the first time, you're going to struggle. If you've never written goals before, writing 10 goals is going to take you probably a half hour. But after you've done it once or twice, by the third or fourth day, you'll find that they come much easier, they come much quicker. You're also going to see that they change a little bit each day. They're not going to be exactly the same as what they were. But by about day 15, they're going to be about the same every day. You're going to have your top 10 now. You're going to know what they are. I recommend you write goals in 3 categories. First category is business. Second category would be personal. And the third would be relationships. So by personal, I mean that would be like your physical fitness goals. If you wanted to learn to scuba dive or something like that, those would be your personal goals. Your relationship goals are things you may want to do to try to improve your relationships with your kids or with your wife or things like that. And, of course, business goals, we all know what they are. Now, when I first started this exercise, the first time I did it, I did something not quite this extreme. I call this supercharged goal setting. I did just a one-time thing. I was at a Brian Tracy seminar, and he had us write down our top 10 goals. When I first did it, about 80% of my goals were business. You know, I was young in the business, so I was just getting started. Actually, it wasn't that long ago. It was only 2002, so whatever that is, 12 years ago. But it was the first time I had been introduced to goal setting. And about 8 out of the 10 were business goals. Things like where I want my income to be and how many clients I wanted and all those kind of things. So I set all these goals in this exercise one time, wrote it in a book, came home from the seminar, put the book on my shelf, never looked back. 2 years later, I was at the Brian Tracy seminar again. He'd come back into town. My business had been flourishing. I was excited to see him again because I attributed a lot of the success I was having to that seminar. So I went back, and he again pulled that chart thing out and said, I want you to do your top 10 goals, same exercise as last time. And he said, if you were here 2 years ago I want you to go back to your office, pull the little book off the shelf that had your goals from last time, and look at them. Just read them. And he said, you're going to be amazed, but you're going to find that 7 or 8 out of the 10 are done. And sure enough, I go and I open that book, and I checked off 8 of them. They were complete, and the 9th one was almost done. And I was amazed that, here I hadn't even looked at them again. I hadn't even thought consciously about them since the day I wrote them. But what happens with goal setting is you're programming your subconscious to take you in a direction you want to go. Okay? So goal setting is critical. So if you're not doing it, absolutely start. I was reading there was an article from the Harvard Business School one day, and they were saying that their top, I forget what it was, 2 or 3% in their school all set goals. So the ones that were performing at the very top of the Harvard Business School were goal setters. Those that were not setting goals were the other ones, the other 97%. So goal setting really, really works, and there's a lot of psychology behind it, a lot of brain function behind it that I don't have time to go into today, but you've got to do this. Now, there's tricks to setting goals. There's 3 that I'm going to go through today. First, a goal has to be believable. So you can't say, if you make $20,000 a year right now, you can't say, I'm going to make $1 million next year, because your brain's just going to go, yeah, right. And they're not going to let you do it. It just won't believe it. It won't have any value. But if you're making 20 now and you say next year I want to make 40, well, your brain's going to go, okay, that's doable. I could double what I do. I could work a little harder, work a little smarter. Yeah, I could do that. So your goals have to be believable. The second thing goals have to do is they've got to be, when you write them, you have to write them as though they've already happened. You have to write them in the present tense. So when we're writing goals, they have to be, instead of saying, I want to earn $40,000, you say, I earn $40,000 a year. And then the last thing a goal needs is a deadline. So you'd write it, I earn $40,000 a year by December 31st, 2014. Now, the beautiful thing about goals is if you get to December 31st, 2014, and maybe you're making $36,000, you don't put a gun to your head. You just change your goal and you say, next year, by 2014 or 15, I'm going to make $50,000. So goals, they drive you, but you can change them anytime you need to change them. So don't get discouraged if you don't hit one. Just reignite that goal, change it up a little bit, and bring it back in. So that's goal setting in a nutshell. But like I say, do it the top 10 every day for 30 days. You'll find that it supercharges your brain and gets you thinking in the right direction. The neuroscience is behind that. I'll go into it really quick because I know I have a little bit of time built in here. The neuroscience behind that, it has to do with what they call a reticular activating system. And it's part of your brain that filters out things that go on around you. So, you may be in a classroom somewhere listening to something like this, and you've got noises going on around you. You've got, furnaces kicking on and off. You've got, people walking past doors and making noise. And your brain filters all that out so you can focus on what's going on. Okay, that's the reticular activating system. The problem also is you may have wonderful opportunities coming at you all the time, and your brain just filters them out. You don't even notice them. You don't even see them coming. So what goal setting does is open up parts of your brain so that you see the opportunities present themselves and you're aware of them. And the best example I can give you of this is, let's say you go out and buy a brand new car. You go out and buy a brand new red Volkswagen, okay? Right, as soon as you sign the dotted line on the bottom of that contract and you drive off the lot, the first thing that happens, beside the value of your car dropping by 30%, is that you will start seeing Volkswagens all over the place. And it's not that there's any more of them out there. It's just when you signed that bottom line, you told your brain that Volkswagens were important to you. Okay? So now your brain is saying, well, Volkswagens are important to him. I'm going to show him the Volkswagens. And if it happens to be a red Volkswagen, it's going to glow. You'll see it a mile away. And it's all just by changing the filters in your brain to allow things to come in. So when you say things like, I want to earn $40,000 a year, now all of a sudden, well, see, I did that wrong. I earn $40,000 a year. Your brain, there's 2 things that work there. One, your brain doesn't like you to lie to yourself. So when you say you earn it and you really don't, your brain has a problem with that. So it's going to do everything it can to rectify that by making you earn $40,000 so you're not lying. The second thing it does is it opens up your filter so that any opportunities to make money are now recognized so that you can jump on them and at least take the opportunity to try to make money with it. So that's what goal setting is really about. It's not just, oh, I'm just going to write it down. Okay, it takes a wish and turns it into a goal. Once it's a goal, wishes, you wish upon a star and they might happen. When you set goals properly, they happen. You'll attain them almost automatically. And it's all because of your subconscious mind and opening up your filter to opportunities. Okay. The third challenge I have for you is called studying the numbers. And this is really where a good consultant and a good accountant come into play, because you've got to have good numbers. If you don't know what's going on in your business, you'll never be able to measure where you're at and what's going on. I recommend spending at least 2 days a month on this. I know it sounds like a lot of time, but it's really not that much. So at least 2 days a month, and you can break it down into however you want if you wanted to do a couple hours a week or however you wanted to do it. But you need to focus on different areas of your business so you know what's going on in your business. You need to know how are your sales moving and how are they changing, and how does that relate to what's going on in the industry. Are sales going up? Are sales going down? Who's growing, who's not? You need to know these kind of things, and you need to compare that to your own business to find out if you're doing things right or wrong. Because if everybody's sales are going up 10% and yours are going down 10, you've got a problem. Something's happening that you need to address and get back in the game. You need to look at your cost of goods and determine whether they're on target or not. Same with your delivery expenses and all the different expenses of your business. You need to know if you're on track. And you need to have good targets to bench against, and you need to be looking at those on a regular basis. So those are my 3 challenges. All right. So we're here to talk about employees today. And before we get started in building your A-team, the actual construction, I just want to lay down a few basic understandings of what's going on with employees right now. So there was a survey some years back that said, what makes employees happy? Because we need to have a good A-team. We need to have good, happy employees, who are working together toward a common goal. So the first thing we got to do is know, how do we make our employees happy? What does it take? Well, when workers were surveyed, we found that money was the 5th most important reason to stay with a company when they were surveyed. So money is number 5, and that kind of amazed me, because as an employer, I always thought, hey, it's all about money, but it's not. Employees are not looking for just money, although they definitely want money. The number 1 reason they wanted to stay with the company was because they were appreciated for their work. So we need to appreciate them for what they do. We need to show them appreciation. We need to make sure that they feel it and that they know they're a valued member of your team. Okay, so appreciation is number 1. Number 2 was they want a company that is growing and has room for advancement. They want to know they have a future with your company. If you're dropping and getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, there's not much incentive for someone to stay with that company, because they're feeling it's dying and there's no reason to continue to be there. They want to know that the business is flourishing, it's moving in the right direction, and that they have a chance to maybe move up the ladder. Maybe go from designer to head designer to manager to someday possibly buying the business and owning it. They want to know they have that possibility, that future. Also, they want a company that has high integrity. When we speak of integrity, automatically most people think of honesty. Well, honesty is a big part of it, but integrity really means living up to what you say you're going to do. So if your business, if your goal, if your vision for your company is, we're going to be the number 1 business when it comes to customer service. There is nobody going to touch us. We're going to be the Nordstrom of the flower industry. If that's going to be your objective, and that's your whole thing for your company, and then a customer comes in and has a complaint, and you yell at them and kick them out the door, that's a lack of integrity, okay? You're not treating your customer with the highest quality standards of service that you're preaching that you're going to do. So it's really walking the walk and talking the talk. That's what we mean when we talk about integrity. And so you have to make sure you do that. You got to be, consistent in the way your culture works at your place. And of course, the fifth thing they want is a good compensation package. They do want money. So they have to have good pay for what they do. They want to understand that they're appreciated and all those other things, but they also want to get paid well. But compensation doesn't always have to be dollars. It can be in a benefit package that maybe doesn't cost you quite as much. Like discounts and things like that you can offer as fringe benefits that, a discount, even though you may give them a 50% discount, it really doesn't cost you anything because you're making the money to begin with. So it's coming right out of your profit margin, not actually out of your pocket. So then, like I said earlier, all too often the employers only look at wages. They always try to reward with money. Oh, we'll give them a commission, we'll give them this, we'll give them that. Those are great, but they're number 5. So put them where they belong. Make sure you're taking care of the other things first, and you'll have good, happy employees. Okay? The other thing employees have to be functional, and an A team cannot function unless it's in these kind of things, is good working conditions. So you've got to make sure you're providing the right foundation for your A team to work on. So we want to make sure that our employees have the proper tools, they're all in good working order, we don't have any problem with that kind of stuff. They have everything they need to do their job. And we also want to make sure that we have a good, safe work environment. Okay? They need to know that they're safe where they are, both physically safe, meaning nothing's going to fall on them and they're not going to slip and kill themselves, that kind of thing. But also it's got to be mentally safe too. You can't allow any kind of bullying or sexual harassment or any of those kind of things to enter a workplace. It's got to be a good zone that they feel comfortable working in. Also, and this is an area that I think a lot of florists need some help with, is you need a good, clean work zone to be efficient. The floors need to be clean and dry so that people can move around easier. Clean the bathrooms. Can't tell you how many florists I've gone in. The bathroom's nothing more than an additional storage closet. And if you can squeeze in past the door to get to the, use the facilities, consider yourself lucky. So take the time, clean the bathrooms, reorganize, some of your other spaces so that you can get rid of some of this clutter. Get it out of the bathrooms, get it out of the aisles and the exit ways. Clear the clutter out of your spaces. Organize your storerooms so they're efficient and that you can get to everything, and also organize your coolers and make sure things are moving efficiently through there. So keeping your place organized and efficient will make your employees much more effective. And also, I can't stress this one enough, if you're working with flowers as a designer or as a processor or as anything, don't smoke. And I don't even mean go outside on your break and smoke and come back in, because smoke gets all over your hands, all over your clothes, and when you're handling those flowers, a non-smoker like myself can smell the smoke on those flowers when we get them. And it's not, when you're selling flowers, you're really selling two things. You're selling the beauty, and you're selling the fragrance. You're selling the fragrance. And the last thing we want is to get them and go, aren't they beautiful, and put them to our nose and always smell cigarette smoke. So don't allow anybody handling flowers to smoke, period. Again, you just can't allow that anymore. So the other thing, besides happy employees and a good working environment, we need a positive work environment. And that gets back to this problem right here. The days of the tyrant boss are over. So if you're one of these guys who find yourself saying, look, it's my way or the highway, it's time for you to hit the highway, because that kind of management style no longer works, and especially doesn't work with the younger workers out there. If they're 50 or over, it'll probably work. If they're under 45, 40, they're going to just leave. Nobody's going to put up with a tyrant boss anymore. They won't stay. They won't work in a hostile environment like that. It's considered hostile, and they'll leave. So you really need to change the way you manage. Manage by positive motivation and lead by example. If you do that, your staff will follow you anywhere. They want to know, the big adage is, whatever you doeth, so doeth your staff. So when you lead by example, they're going to do what you do, good or bad. So if you're hostile and nasty to the other employees, they are too. If you treat the customers poorly, they will too. But the converse is true as well. If you treat everybody really nice, if you're always smiling, if you're always friendly, it's infectious. They'll do it too. If you treat the customers wonderfully, they'll do it too. So you got to lead by example. and by positive motivation. And we'll talk about some of these things, how to motivate and some of that as we go further. This is the key, I think, to an A team. So if you make work fun and rewarding for your staff, they'll reward you with a hard day's work. And that's what it's all about. Everybody's willing to work hard when they're having fun and when they're getting rewarded for it. And again, rewards are not just money. Rewards can be a lot of things. We'll talk about that too in a little bit. So the other thing that we have to address, and this is one of the very difficult things when you have a small business, because I know my business is a small business as well. My partner, or former partner, was my father-in-law. My sister-in-law is my office manager. My daughter's working here right now. My father works here during tax season. So I'm a family business. But the biggest thing we've got to learn to do is treat everyone in our team consistently and maintain your integrity with how you treat everybody. Because if you treat your family different than you treat non-family, you cannot build an A-team. There's no way possible. You will have too much animosity in the workplace, and you won't be able to build your A-team. Okay? So those are some of the things you have to have in place before we start. So let's talk about building your A-team. That's why we're here. Most important thing we have to do to build our A-team, we talked about that vision for ourselves that we had earlier. We're going to chart our course, and we're going to have this vision. Most important thing we have to do is share this vision with our employees. They have to know what we expect and where we're headed, what we want out of the business in order to help us get there. Now, this is where it gets tricky. It's easy to tell them what you want. But how many of you have ever told your employees, I want you to answer the phone like this? And then you listen to them, and they're not answering the phone like that. So you tell them again, I want you to answer the phone like this. And the next time you check, they're not answering the phone like that. Here's the news flash. Anything you tell them to do, they won't do. Okay? Telling them is not sharing your vision. So what you need to do is get them to tell you. And I know it sounds kind of backwards, but here's the way you got to do it. I held a meeting for my staff that I called the dream meeting. And basically all I was doing was sharing my dream for the company in a way that they were telling me how to get there. So, for example, at the time, my big issues were I wanted better communication with my customers, better ways of getting data moved back and forth and work moved back and forth. So those are the questions that I posed to my staff in this meeting. So basically it was, how can we communicate better with our employees? And I let them give me all the ideas. And I'll tell you what, they're in the trenches. They're the ones talking to these guys every day. They're the ones trying to get the files and trying to get the work. So they had a lot of fantastic ideas. So you may pose questions like, how can we make our work area for our design more efficient? Or how can we, make our delivery system work better? Or, how should we answer the telephones to treat the customers? Or how should we treat a customer when they walk through the door? Those are the kind of questions you got to pose so that they basically tell you the ideas that get you the end results that you want. When they tell you the ideas, when it's their ideas coming to you, now they can't say that's a stupid idea. They don't want to do it because it's their idea. They'll never say that. So they're telling you what to do. They're going to do it because they know, or at least in their mind, they know it's going to work because they pretty much came up with it as a group, so everybody's agreeing on it, and they come up with it. Now, the way to do this meeting, it's not quite as easy as it sounds because there's a couple things you've got to do. You can't let anybody be negative in this meeting at all. If anybody says, oh, that's a stupid idea, or oh, that'll never work, nobody else is going to feed any more ideas to you. So it'll kill the whole meeting. So what we did is we had, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're the spongy balls that you can dip in water. I think they're made by Nerf, and you can throw them. And when they're wet, you throw them. When they hit pretty hard to make a big splash. But when they're dry, it's like throwing a dry sponge. It doesn't weigh anything. It's almost weightless. Well, everybody in the room had those. And I called them anti-negativity bombs. And anytime somebody said something negative, they got pelted with 8 or 10 of these things. And everybody would laugh, and it'd be a fun time. And then that broke that negative energy, and we were back to a positive vibe, and everybody would share again. Of course, it was fun because it was my partner who got pelted the most, which made it a lot of fun because I think they got a lot of tension out on that little exercise, so it was pretty good. But the idea is it's got to be a positive meeting. So every idea that gets thrown out there, no matter how silly you think it is, write it down. I used a flip chart, and I was writing the ideas down. So I had the question at the top of the page, and then I just wrote down all the answers that they pose. And by the time we finished, we had gone through all segments of the business. We had gone through everything from the way the building should look, the way the waiting room should look, the way we should handle phone communications and emails. And back then, this was back in 2004. We started using FTP sites, and we started using all kinds of stuff that I had never even heard of, that I wouldn't have known anything about had I not been posing these questions to my employees. Okay, so what's key about this is when it's their idea, they'll believe in it, and they have to believe in the direction the company's going, or else it won't work. So you've got to have the vision, share it with your employees, and they have to believe in it. If they believe, that we're going to have the best customer service in the whole industry, if they believe in it, they're going to do it. And that's what's key about this, okay? And then once you have them believing, you got to lead them on the journey. And I always call this kind of management style, I call it leading from behind. Because if you shared the vision clearly enough with them, they know where they're going, they believe in it and wholeheartedly, and they know what to do because you've already outlined all the things that we've got to do to get there, they're going to go there automatically. All you've got to do is walk behind them and make sure they're heading in the right direction. If they start to go off course, you just correct them and bring them back on. That's all you have to do. So if you've shared your vision well enough and you've planted it in their head well enough, they'll take you to where you want to go. So they'll take you to your vision. All right, so let's talk about the A team itself. So we've got A employees, which are rare in nature. So we have to create them. But basically, an A employee has two things going for them. They understand the vision that you're trying to create, and they believe in it wholeheartedly. They're all in, and they're ready to follow you anywhere. And they're very skilled at what they do. So if they're designers, man, they are good designers. And that doesn't just mean they do beautiful work. They do beautiful work with the right amount of flowers, with the right profit built in. They're very skilled. If they're on the telephones, man, they handle the customers great. They upsell, they add on, they do all these wonderful things, all these great skills that we're trying to teach. They've got it. I mean, those are your A's, man. They're just driving the business home for you. Okay. The next levels of employees are B's and C's. Now B's, they believe wholeheartedly. They're all in, but they just don't quite have the skills yet. Okay. So we need to get their skills a little bit better. And then our C's, they've got great skills, but maybe their attitude's not quite there. They're not quite really a team player. They're not really quite into our vision yet. Okay? And then lastly, we have our D clients. And our D's, they don't have very good skills, and they don't have very good attitudes. Okay? And if you've got D's, you got work to do. And you got to get started. And here's what you got to do. First thing you got to do is try to move them up. So if you can take somebody who has a bad attitude and doesn't really believe in what's going on, and you can convert them into a true believer in your business and your vision and your direction, and you can get them to buy in, well, then it makes them a B. Okay, so now they've moved up. Or if we can take that D and get them more skilled, take them to some classes and get them skilled. Now we've moved them up to a C. Okay, once we've done that, or if we can't do that, then fire them. If you can't move a D to a C or a B, get rid of them. I don't care if it's mom. I don't care if it's your aunt, your brother, your sister, your neighbor down the street. I don't care who it is. If you can't move them from a D to a B or a C, you got to let them go. Okay? I fired my own son. I think he wanted me to. But he wouldn't jump, he wouldn't work on, he wouldn't play part of the team. So, and his skills were a little weak too. So he wouldn't take the time to improve them and get any better. So we had to let him go. My daughter still works here. My son can't handle it. And I found out later he didn't want to handle it, and that's why he's out of here. But you've got to get rid of those people who are not doing the job, who are not, because let me tell you, if their attitude is wrong, if they're negative in any way, it will kill the whole team. Negativism is contagious, terribly so. And if you've got bad attitudes, it just spreads like the plague through your shop, and it will kill off your entire. You'll never have a chance as an A team. Okay. So what are some of the things we got to do? To improve the skills, we got to educate. Okay, education comes in a lot of different ways. I mean, you can send them to classes. They can listen to seminars like this. They can go to state associations and all these different places that hold classes. Some of the wholesale houses hold classes. Of course, you can also do classes in shop. I mean, you can bring people in to train and do things in shop, but those are the kind of things you got to do. Educate is one thing. Then you have to train. Now, training is a little different. Training means they actually do the task. So in educating, you're learning it on theory. In training, you do it, and then you learn from the practice of doing it in a live environment. And then, but the other thing is that you have to do is coach. So when somebody is training and they're trying something, you've got to coach them on how to do it better. So show them what they need to fix and how to do it better next time. Don't say, oh, that's terrible. Say, hey, next time try doing this. Excuse me. Or if you're on the telephone, hey, next time say this. When they say that, try this next time. Coach them on how to improve what they're doing. And they'll get better, and they'll reward you for it. The better they get, the better they'll do for you. Now, for building belief, the things you've got to do is, again, lead by example is huge. So make sure that, if you want them to treat customers well, if you want them to be happy, you've got to treat customers well, and you have to be happy. So if you walk in the door grumbling, guess what? You just set the tone for the whole day. Your whole staff's going to grumble all day. If you come in the door happy and upbeat, you're going to find that they're going to be more upbeat as well. So lead by example. Make it part of your culture to be this way. There are some places that I don't care when you call, what time of day, what time of night, you get a very friendly, cheerful voice on the phone. Of course, with your business, you do have to be considerate of what the occasion might be, but that's no reason not to be cheerful and friendly. So make it part of your culture. And the employees have to be part of that as well. Again, that gets back to, how do we answer the phones? How do we do this? Let them have a part in creating all this. The more involved they are in defining all of what they're going to be doing, the easier it's going to be to get them to do it and to maintain it. Also, if you have some people with really poor attitudes, try to find out what's going on. I mean, it could be something at home, could be something that has no relationship to the business that's causing a problem. And if that's the case, make sure that they, that they take the time, or take the time to talk to them, see if there's something you can do to, help them with their attitude. And the other thing you can do to help build belief is empower your employees. If you give them power, and we'll talk about some of the things that you can do, if you give them the power to handle everyday issues and things like that without management's approval, empowering them is going to get them to believe in the company and become more part of the company. Some examples of that are small discounts to customers, replace flowers that didn't last, change window displays or other displays without asking anybody. Just that's part of what they do. When you empower them, it makes them feel like they're part of the business. And if you have the right people in place, they're not going to let you down when you give them these powers. They're not going to abuse them. Okay. So the next thing we got to do is move our B's up to A's by getting them skills, and move our C's up to A's by getting them to believe in the culture of the business and where we're going. And again, if we can't move them up, you move them out, fire them, gone, get rid of them. Once you've done that, you're going to find that you have your A team. Okay. Now that we've got all these perfect employees in place, which are hard to find, what should we be paying these people? And basically, total payroll cost for a traditional flower shop should be about 35% of inventory sales. Now, we use inventory sales in our analysis and not gross, just because we're dealing with product sales and cost of goods are based off of that, and we deal with cost of labor the same way. So we're looking at 35% total labor as a percentage of inventory sales. So we're excluding delivery income, service income, relay income, commissions on outgoing wires, all that stuff. It's just the product sales. So 35% of that. And we break that down a little further. Well, actually, that also includes all your subcontractors, casual labor, any employee at all, or any labor cost at all. We further break it down. We look at sales and administration should be about 5%. Design and processing should run about 15%. Delivery about 5%, and then owners and officers should get about 10%, and that should add up to 35 if I did my math right. So we normally look at about 25 for what I call rank and file, and then another 10% for the owners, and that's our 35%. Now, it's a simple formula. All you've got to do is take your total payroll dollars, for each category, divide it by your inventory sales, which are just your product sales, and that's going to give you the percentage. And you can check that very easily. Now, the only thing that we don't have built into this number are the cost of taxes and benefits, which generally run an additional 12 to 14% of payroll. So that's off payroll, not of inventory sales. So in this case, if you're paying somebody $10 an hour, it's probably going to cost you between $11.20 and $11.40 an hour for them when you add the other percentage on. So that's cost of payroll. That's what it should cost you. A few ideas just to motivate your employees and help them move along and help them, in this process. A small contest, rewards, those kind of things are great. They help motivate the staff. They have more fun. Really simple idea. This one that I've seen is I know a shop that used to hang dollar bills on the wall. And anytime somebody sold an arrangement that was over $100, somebody got to walk over and pull a dollar off the wall. So they would say, hey, got one, $110, boom, they get to pull a dollar off the wall. And they would do that on, special holidays, things like that. They wouldn't do it every day, but it's a fun little contest just to get some, motivation going. Education and training is also a great way to motivate employees. When you take the time and the money to invest in your employees, they're gonna return it back to you. It's gonna pay dividends back to your shop. Okay. Other things you want to do is thank your employees. Thank them. You should be thanking them every day, verbally anyway. When they're leaving, you should be saying, hey, thanks for helping today. Thanks for all you did today. It means a lot, even if you may not think so. When you can, make it a written thank you. You'd be surprised. It can make an employee's day. Take the time to celebrate birthdays. Just a simple birthday cake. It can be inspirational and motivate your employees as well. So simple little things like that. One main thing, one big thing is listen to their ideas. I tell you, there's nothing more powerful than that meeting when they're sharing ideas and then they know that, hey, answering the phone like this was my idea and we chose that. Okay, boy, that really makes them feel like that's part of it, And the other thing is, they're in the trenches every day. They see things you probably don't. So listen to their ideas because they're probably well worth it. Another big one, reward effort, not just success. So, and what I mean by that is, they may try something, but it doesn't work. But it may have been a really good idea, and maybe it just, maybe it needs to be tried again or a little bit differently or something like that. But if you don't reward them for trying, or at least acknowledge, hey, that was a great idea. I'm surprised it didn't work. If you don't acknowledge their efforts, they won't try again, and you won't get any more out of them. So make sure you take the time. Publicize their successes. If they are in their AIFD designation, or if they do something, publicize it. Praise them publicly in your business. But if you can, if it's noteworthy, put it in the newspaper, do whatever. Put it in your employee newsletter. Do whatever to share it. And the other thing is, do an Employee of the Month program if you're large enough. If you're so small it's going to be the same person every month, don't do it. But if you're large enough that it can work, do it. And you may think, well, this is done to death, but yeah, maybe it is, but there's a reason it's done to death because it actually really does work. So those are some ideas to motivate. And if you do all of these things, okay, what you're going to find is you've built yourself an A-team. And they're going to take your business where you want to go, almost on automatic pilot. You won't have to berate them and work so hard. They're going to take you where you want to go. And with that, that is all I've got. I'm open for questions.
Oh, Derrick, thank you so much for sharing a lot of great information with us today. We, of course, are now open for questions. Remember, if you have a question, simply type it in the question box on the upper right side of your screen. And we will start with the first question. Somebody mentioned that you didn't talk about any recruiting. So Allison was wondering, where do you go to recruit some good employees so that you can maybe start with the A's and don't have to work your way up?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I tell you what I do is I always hire based on attitude because it's you can teach skills, but it's hard to teach attitude. If you got somebody with negative attitude, it's very hard. So the first thing we do when we're recruiting is I'm recruiting all the time. So if I happen to be out at a good restaurant and there's a good server that just blows me away with the way they handle the customer or whatever, they might be my next receptionist. So I'm always looking. And but like I say, I'm looking for attitude more so than skills because I can teach the skills. The other things we do, I mean, there's always Craigslist when you're hiring in a pinch. If you need a lot of time, if you need something fast, there are online services where you can go out and look for employees. But I think the best thing is just be looking, keep your eyes open all the time for potential employees when you're traveling around and when you're moving. You'll be surprised at what you can come up with.
All right, thank you. Frank was asking a little bit more, if you could explain a little bit more about what kind of, you were talking about educating and what kinds of trainings or classes, what would you offer?
What would our company offer, or what would I offer in their situations to the employee?
Probably for the employee, from the florist field.
Right. I would say, it depends on, of course, what that person is doing. If they're a designer, so to speak, then you may want to have your best designer show them, some tricks and techniques of how to shortcut and do things faster. Possibly also how to price properly and make sure that what they're putting in the arrangements is the right amount. Those kind of things can be taught internally by using user A employees to show and train others and help others move up. And you can do that with all of them. And your A salespeople can help, your B and C salespeople move up. And so I would use your in-house trainers, use your A's as your trainers, and bring it up that way. Does that answer the question? Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions out there?
No, I think that's it. Well, I guess, your email address is on the screen too, so
yes.
If anybody has any questions, please feel free to email Derrick.
Absolutely.
There. So, all right. Well, then I guess we'll thank you, everybody, for attending today's webinar. And if you missed a portion of the webinar, would like to view it again, a replay will be available at FTD University Online later this week. The webinar materials, as we mentioned before and are on the screen, are always available at ftdi.com. So just click on the FTD University logo on the bottom of the home page and then click through to the webinar series page. Of course, as always, we'll be sending you a very brief survey to gather your feedback on today's webinar. So please, if you could just take a few minutes to complete this brief survey and help us improve future webinars and other education programs for you. Our next FTD webinar is scheduled for Tuesday, April 1st. Kristen Naher, CEO of Bootcamp Digital, will discuss visual social media marketing. She shares why visuals are so important and how you can quickly and easily create images and videos as a part of your social media strategy. Registration is already available at ftdi.com, so be sure to register as soon as possible to reserve your spot. Again, thank you, Derrick, so much for sharing a lot of great information and creating a powerful team that will work efficiently to make your shop's vision a reality. This concludes FTD's webinar, Building Your A-Team. Thank you.